Hello, my name is Michelle, and you're listening to Profit is a Choice. With us today are Cory and Anthea Click. They're the owners of Fresh Perspective, which is a staging and design company located in Nashville, Tennessee. We're going to discuss their humble beginnings, their challenges and opportunities, all of which have led them to where they are. A few areas of focus on our call are going to be leadership, perseverance, and possibility. Anthea and Cory are high-energy, go-for-it entrepreneurs. Today will be a shot in the arm for all of us, I'm sure. So enjoy. Every day, empowered entrepreneurs are taking ownership of their company financial health and enjoying the rewards of reduced stress and more creativity. With my background as a financial software developer, owner of multiple businesses in the interior design industry, educator, and speaker, I coach women in the interior design industry to increase their profits, regain ownership of their bottom line, and to have fun again in their business. Welcome to Profit is a Choice. Hey, Anthea. Hey, Cory. I'm so glad you're with us today.
Thank you. We're so excited to be here. It's an awesome pleasure for sure.
Yeah, very exciting for us. Thank you.
Good. Well, you're the first couple that I'm interviewing on the podcast together. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Up until this point, it's all been me interviewing one person or even a solo podcast by myself. So it's kind of exciting. I can see you, the listeners can't. And so I know this is going to be a fun time together. I want to start by asking you all to tell the listeners a little bit about your business. And I'd love to hear where you started. What did it look like when you started?
It wasn't a pretty picture at all when we started. Our staging company came about just because of an idea on the sofa. Cory had this brilliant idea that we should do this. And so we started doing some research and realized that this was a good niche. From selling real estate, staging wasn't hot in Nashville. There wasn't very many agents who were doing it at the time. And so we felt like there was an opportunity to take advantage of the marketplace and go into a direction that we felt like we would like so much more than doing what we were doing.
What were you doing?
Well, I was building homes. I was working for a home builder, and Anthea was selling real estate, and we had our daughter Riley. She was about a year old at the time, and Anthea was selling real estate for the same company I was building for, and through some circumstances, they dropped our division that we were in, and actually Anthea heard me get fired. She was outside of the door and knew that she was coming next, and we knew that we needed to do something else. So we kind of came up with this idea. I don't know if we came up with the idea, but we decided to pursue this idea.
Right. Got it. Okay. So here's what's so perfect about this. Coming from a building background for you, Cory, and then from the real estate background for you, Anthea, you really had a lot of knowledge about what it took, not only to build a space, but to put it together to get it out the door. Because we both know, or all three of us know, staging a home, studies have proven it sells a house so much faster than an empty home when it's staged properly.
Correct.
Right? So I'm sure in your research you found that. And there's nothing like having a little fire behind you to make you want to go try a new idea. And I would say losing a job and knowing the other one's coming because the division closing was about all the fire you needed on the sofa that night.
Kind of forced to, because we didn't want to stay doing what we were doing. We knew that wasn't working for us. And also, we are down to the core entrepreneurs. And we always felt like we needed to do something for ourselves. We needed to build our own dreams and not someone else's. And so to be able to take an idea and develop it and build it has been nothing but exciting for us. There's been a lot of trials and tribulations along the way, but we have grown and it's exciting. And every day, I'll even tell you, last night, we didn't even get into bed until about 1:30, close to 2 o'clock, because we were so excited about talking about our 5-year plan and I couldn't sleep. And it's fun when you have a vision and you have a dream that actually keeps you awake at night.
In a good way.
In a very good way. Yeah, I'm so excited. I couldn't sleep because of the plans of what we were talking about. So it's fun.
So how many years ago was this? Like 11 years ago, 10, 11 years ago?
11 years ago, we started our business.
I was thinking Riley's about 12 now. So when you said she was about a year old, about 11. Okay, so 11 years ago was when you started the idea or started the business, pursued the idea of a staging business, right? Now, we'll talk about in a minute how it's changed from its early beginnings, because after 11 years, we would certainly expect that a business would morph, to some degree. Did you know at that point, because the two of you had already worked together for that home builder, did you know that the two of you were going to be able to go into business as a husband and wife team? Because many people can't do that.
Yeah, and that's what's so crazy when people say to me all the time, I don't understand, how in the world can you work with your husband? I think, how in the world can I not work with my husband? We are both on the same team. We're on the same page. We're both pulling the cart together. It makes so much sense for us. We start out, we're best friends first, husband and wife, business partners, and we just enjoy it. We like working together. It's fun for us.
I think what's interesting to watch and to stand back and see is, like, it's not always common for the husband and the wife to both have that entrepreneurial spirit. A lot of times if you were to think about E-Myth, you might have one spouse that was very entrepreneurial. The other may be more technician or manager. But to have two driven entrepreneurs as a husband and wife team probably has something to do with the way that you both are in sync, as you say, pulling the cart in the same direction. But I also know that you have different skill sets and different ways that you support the company. And so did you, from a very early on conversation, kind of identify, Anthea, this is going to be your role in the company for now, and Cory, this is going to be your role? Or did you just have a natural affinity to a certain thing? How did you decide who played what role when two of you are coming out with an idea?
Well, actually, Cory had me take the lead. And
just as he is on this podcast, he's already told you, take the lead and I'll answer when I need to.
Yeah. That's how he rolls. But I actually worked the business for about a year full time before he jumped in full time. Of course, he was always supportive and always willing to do whatever it took to make it happen. But he went to work for another builder because we had to eat. That was kind of important too.
So kind of the bridge in time, he went to work for another builder while you kicked off this joint idea of a staging company. And then when it got to the right point after a year or so, he left that position and came in with you.
That's correct.
That's right. I would come home from building, and at the time we had a pickup truck is what we were hauling our furniture, if you call it that, when we started. And so I'd come home from work, we'd load up the truck, and we'd go stage at night. We'd stage the properties at night, and Anthea would be building the pipeline and making the connections during the day. And then I'd get off of work and come clock in here. And that's kind of how we built it until it got to a point to where the business could support our family without me having to go work for another builder.
Okay. So when the company first started, let's say in that first 1 to 2 years, so when Anthea was by herself, and then let's say maybe for the first year after that, after Cory, you came in, what was the scale of the business that you were doing? Were you doing like 3 or 4 houses a month? Were you doing 2 houses a month? What did it look like? And I'm asking that because I want to be able to later in our conversation talk about where you are today and kind of the trajectory of your growth.
Well, I'll tell you, I wish we were doing 3 or 4 houses a month. We started out really, really slow. I thought, because I had a real estate background, that I had a ton of contacts within the community, that they would just hire me as their new stager. Well, no, because they didn't think of me as a stager. They thought of me as a real estate agent. And so it was everyone that I thought I would do business with, I never did business with. I only did business with people that the new contacts that I made after we started the company. And it grew from there.
But there was a time when, we would say, if we could just stage 12 houses, we have 12 houses staged, we'll have all of our bases covered. And that seemed like such a monumental thing at the time when we were doing 2 and 3 houses a month. And, now we look at that and we laugh, God, remember when our big goal was only 12 houses, and so we've opened up our way of thinking and really pushed it out there, which has helped us grow. But that's where we were when we started. It was 2 or 3 houses, and a lot of times we'd hope one would sell and come down before we'd have to stage another, or we'd have to go buy furniture to make it happen.
Our first year, we brought home $14,000 gross. Super slow starters, but it's not where you are, it's where you're going.
Love
and
it.
We are so tenacious. First off, no one's going to tell me no, I can't do something. You tell me no, and I'm gonna bucket with all that I can and tell you I can do it. And I didn't want to quit, and neither did he. But then there were days that I wanted to quit, and he didn't. And there were days that he wanted to quit, and I didn't. So that helped us get through some of those tough times where we were struggling and figuring out where's the food going to come from for tonight, because we need to eat.
Going back a minute to a bit of your story, I think there is a great big lesson in that, and that is people's perceptions of us and maybe not always allowing us to grow the way that we're trying to grow. Sometimes there are people that know you one way, so that when you create a new business identity, they're still holding on to the old one and they're not moving with you. And so I love that you shared that. It wasn't that, this idea of, hey, I've got all these like shooting fish in a barrel, as they say, and none of those fish were your fish. It literally had to be new people. And I see that oftentimes when we start our businesses, and let's say we're marketing to one crowd and then we realize, oh my gosh, my pricing is all skewed, I need to go up. All of those people are almost no longer your clients. That's not them. You've now got to go somewhere else. And I also remember when I started my window treatment company back in 2000, my friends just saw me as somebody who just did a little sewing on the side. And so to them, they even laughed when I told them I was going to, the International Window Coverings Expo. They're like, oh my gosh, there's like real people who do this. I'm like, yes. They didn't connect it. They almost downplayed it and minimized it. And they didn't see me as a professional doing what I was doing. And in all honesty, it was my first year in business. I was shaky-kneed going in anyway, trying to figure out my own identity. But once you get it, you realize my friends or my colleagues or the people that I thought, you may not be the ones that buy from me, but somebody else will. And it's that tenacity that you just mentioned fine. I thought you would all be the people that are buying from me, and you're not, but that doesn't mean I'm going to stop. It means now I'm going to go find the people that really are going to buy from me. How did you do that? Did you just beat down the real estate doors of people that you didn't know? Did you just look for new connections? How did you go about getting those first people that would believe that you were a stager?
Well, I think part of the challenge was at the time, and the home staging industry is still really new. It's really in its infancy, but 11 years ago, it was really in its infancy. And the challenge with what we were dealing with was most real estate agents didn't even know what staging was.
Right.
So to have that as a challenge, we figured, okay, our job is we need to go educate them. And at the time, there weren't numbers to prove how quickly it helps to help sell the house and, the less days on market and those sort of things. It was really more fluff than hardcore numbers. And I'm very grateful at this point that the industry is at the place where we can put together some great statistics and really have proof in the pudding. But we just went on a mission to educate. So I just started knocking on doors and getting in front of these real estate offices and doing these presentations and putting ourselves out there, which was so hard to do. And I I kept my license for a while, but I even had real estate agents tell me that they would not do business with me because I held a real estate license. They were afraid I was going to steal clients.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
So for me, it was quite insulting because you're questioning my integrity, but you just plug on. And, I don't care. I don't have to do business with you. Moving on, going to the next. And the beautiful thing was, too, we got used to hearing no. And we started to appreciate the no's because we know that you have to get through so many no's before you get your yes. We didn't know how many no's that was going to be, but we knew that that was another one. So fantastic. Let's move on. And we're one step closer to our yes.
Okay, that is such a great mindset. I had a client the other day that we were talking about it, and we realized that we did the math. And for every 7 no's, somebody said yes. And so then my question was, how many yeses do you need in this time frame? And she said 3. Okay, then we need 21 no's. If we can get 21 no's, we can get 3 yeses. And so then the no just became the next step to get, okay, click, click, click. Where's the yes coming? Mm-hmm. But if she looked at the no as defeat, as opposed to just the stepping stone to the yes, it would derail her and make her stop. So I think part of the tenacity and grit, and you tell me if you agree, is looking at no as a good thing. I've heard that no means next opportunity.
Absolutely.
Isn't that great?
There were a lot of no's, and we still get no today, and if this was easy, everybody would be doing it. But what I do know is that we really had to start all over because our business was moving along and we were doing pretty well. And at that point, anybody that had a pulse could buy a house. So the market was great. And then overnight, it stopped. All of that legwork that we had done, a lot of agents didn't make it through the market turn. A lot of the builders that we were working with stopped building. And so as we emerged through that tough time, we had to start all over again, building our network.
Your base.
Our base. Yes.
So let me ask this. That's a good point. So it started off small, just Anthea, then Cory joins. So now we've got this business that's providing familial income for the both of you, right? One business providing for both and for your entire family, because certainly we weren't sending your 3-year-old out to get a job. So it was up to you guys. And you're plugging along, and I'm certain that you're educate, as Anthea said, you're building your base, and then we have the market crash that we have in 9, 10, and what feels like, this is so weird. We're August of 18. It still feels like yesterday to me. And when I talk to other people, as much as we've moved on, we're in a great market at the moment, comparatively speaking, it still feels very raw. To many of us, we still feel the pain of the shift of 8 and then 9 and 10. And I know there are some industries that I think are still struggling to recover. But when you started seeing that and that happened, how in the world did you weather those years with it? What happened to your company and how did you weather that?
Well, it squeaked by, but we went and got jobs. We would have 3 or 4 jobs at a time, just to make ends meet. We had to pay the mortgage and we had to eat, and macaroni and cheese and hot dogs was a gourmet meal at the time. So that was like, awesome. We can have dinner tonight. But we knew that it would work. We knew that we could work, that we were young, we were able-bodied, we had the motivation, we had the desire. And the beautiful thing is that we live in a country that allows us the opportunities to take advantage of and pursue something that we wanted to do, and we weren't going to quit.
Those years were very difficult years for the entire country, right? For most in the country. I'm sure there's this elite group that it didn't touch, but for the rest of us, it seriously did. I love that you didn't let your pride and ego get in the way and think, I'm going to sit here and work it out. You did continue to work it out, but you went and got other jobs to support the family and do what you needed to do. But you didn't give up the dream of knowing that when the market shifted and the market turned, this could come back and be better than ever. I heard something Tony Robbins said the other day, and he was like, when the market takes a hit, if you're prepared for it, That's the biggest opportunity for growth there is. It's when you're not prepared for the dip that you get smacked on the other side. We're all going to hit the dip. The dip's coming. It comes every few years. We're going to hit a dip. But his conversation was about being prepared for it, because right on the other side of that is where everything explodes. Is that kind of a similar experience to what you had with this on the other side of it, after we got through it? Because your business now is very different from the business you had prior to the recession that we went through.
Absolutely. Anytime that you hit a roadblock, anytime you hit a huge challenge, or, and we deal with this still today, there's, sometimes you just get a string of things that just compound on top of each other. But I always tell our team, we are about to hit that major breakthrough. That's why all of this garbage is coming our way, because we're being tested. And how we handle this and how we come out on the other side is going to show how amazing this new breakthrough is. And we don't know what that new breakthrough is, but it's going to be pretty cool. We know that. So
I love that you're looking for it. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes we're not looking for it. And I love that you haven't so clearly defined it.
I'm expecting it.
You're expecting it. Yes, you are working with expectation, but without, I would say, super definition, because then that allows it to show up however it shows up. Sometimes we've defined success or a blessing or whatever. We've defined it in a certain way and it shows up in 12 other ways and we miss it. And so I love how you do that. What was the first big leap in your business that catapulted it to be more than the two of you?
The first big opportunity that we had was the market had turned and Nashville was starting to come out of the recession a little bit. And there was a new project in town. I guess I'd say new. It's been around for a couple of years. And there were like 5 models within this project. And because of the recession, the previous owners lost the building. And so they had some new investors came in and they wanted to refresh everything. Well, we were teaching marching band and we got a call while we were at practice. And so we went out to look at this job to see if we could handle it. And one thing led to another. We talked our way into it. And then it was like we were the dog that caught the car. And okay, we have this big job. Now what? We don't even have a way to get the furniture here. We don't have the furniture. We don't have anything, but we made them think that we did. And so we just figured it out at that point. We were able to work a deal with the band we were teaching and use their trailer. We were able to get the furniture and make those happen. And honestly, the phone hasn't stopped ringing since we did that project. What, 8 years ago? 8 years ago now, I guess, is when that happened. And that really got our name out in Nashville. And, it's just been blowing and going ever since.
So that first connection after the recession was really a huge one for you.
It was. I mean, because they started selling these units really fast. So the furniture that we had invested in and put in these models, we got back a lot quicker than we thought because the units sold. So therefore, our staging inventory really doubled at that point with the amount of furniture that we had to work with. And we've paid cash for our furniture all the way through since we started. And that's just given us a lot of leverage too, that we don't have to lay in bed at night and think about a bill that we have coming up and this stuff is sitting in our warehouse. But of course, at the time we didn't even have a warehouse. We were in like 2 or 3 storage units and borrowing a trailer. And it was very humble beginnings.
Right. And that's how many of us start, right? We start very garage based, if you will, whether we're physically there or not, a garage mentality of do what it takes to make it work. You also knew, though, you said yes before you had all the resources, but you also knew, you knew that you could get the resources. You knew that you could figure it out and meet the need of the 5 models that you took on. To you, it was a big challenge. And as Anthea would say, bring it on, baby, the bigger, the better. So we could figure it out. So I say that because I don't want some people to think just say yes to everything, but it fit what you wanted to do. It was a good fit for what you wanted and where you wanted the business to go. And you knew that you would be able to find the help to make it work some way, somehow.
It was exactly what we wanted. that was a dream job for us, and it was huge. It was the largest job to date that we had gotten, and it was obviously the biggest project and definitely the biggest challenge, but there was, when you've got the bank holding every single check that you have to make sure that it clears, so they're going to hold it for a few days, and you're strapped for cash and you're just trying to scrape any kind of pennies together. It was tough. There was a lot of tears. I can't lie about that. There were a lot of tears that went on, and a lot of sleepless nights wondering if we're doing the right thing. We were wondering, really, could we do this? We were wondering if we were cut out for it. Everyone told us to go get jobs, to go get a real job, because we had lots of little part-time jobs to try and make ends meet. And it wasn't a whole lot, but we were workers. We just decided, let's put our head down, let's put our nose to the grindstone, and let's do it. And we just put all of our chips in, and there was no turning back, because failure was not an option. So we had to figure it out.
You took a jump.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we took a jump into something that we knew wasn't going to
calculated
to devastate us. Any of the progress that we had made. We knew that, if we bought this furniture, this job was going to pay for it in this amount of time. And then if nothing else, we knew that we would have that furniture to continue on with our business. We just needed to make sure that we could eat and keep the lights on.
So at what point as your business was growing through that, at what point did you start bringing on employees?
I think we're about 5 or 6 years into it, maybe 7.
Yeah, 7 years in before we actually decided to bring somebody else on, because Anthea and I, we knew nobody's ever going to outwork us. That's just how we are. We're going to work until the job is done. And until it started hurting more to carry the furniture than it did writing a check, we were going to carry the furniture.
I love that. When the pain of carrying the furniture was worse than the pain of writing the check. Isn't that so true, though, for every job in our company? When the pain of doing your own marketing outweighs the pain of paying somebody else to go do it for you. I love that. Very good, Cory.
So then you take another step and you realize, the responsibilities that you have with that. And that brings on a whole nother.
It's a whole new world.
A whole new world of, man, we help mortgages and we do all of this. So it just made sure that we had all of our ducks in a row and that we were taking care of everybody. But we brought one guy on at the time. And, it was just temporary. It was going to be temporary. We didn't know how much we could promise him. A guy called me and he was like, hey, do you know anybody that's hiring? And actually I was like, no, I don't. I need to go because we're staging this house. And I hung up, and Anthea looked at me like, what are you doing? We could use some help. So that's how we first hired our first guy. It was going to be a temporary thing. He ended up being on with us for 2 years before he moved on. And we haven't stopped hiring since. We realized that, hey, we can do a lot more things if we're not assembling and delivering furniture.
I think it's interesting that you all may not have been profitable immediately, like in month 1, but I love that you went into this venture knowing that you had to be profitable as a company, because it was both of you. We kind of giggled at the beginning. Riley was 1 or 2 years old. She certainly couldn't go to work, but in all truthfulness, it had to be a company that could support your family if you were going all in, both of you.
Absolutely. It was an investment. And we're also very delayed gratification minded. So that's never been an issue for us. We both literally have come from what we say nothing. We didn't have a silver spoon in our mouth, and we didn't have a whole lot of finances to even start this business. It was a crazy idea. If you look at it from the outside looking in, we were nuts to do this. But, I just feel like somebody's drive and someone's dream really can conquer a whole lot. And the facts don't matter.
Yeah, what shows up on paper doesn't always tell the whole story.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay, so we knew that, as Cory said, you had taken on these jobs, you prepared. The company was profitable enough to cover the two of you. And then you knew that to grow, you were going to have to make that first hire. And as you mentioned, Cory, subsequent hires. But the company now had to be responsible for their salaries in addition to yours, not little in and out like we can with subcontractors. How weighty was that decision, knowing that when you were bringing them on, it wasn't subcontractor, you're bringing them on for kind of a long haul here?
It's huge. I just hired a new person and we're responsible for making sure that they pay their rent on time not on time, but that they have money to pay rent and
right.
that they have money to eat, and just the responsibility. It's huge. I mean, these are people's lives that we're talking about. If we fail, that's one thing.
Right.
But to fail somebody else is a totally different ballgame. And I would never, ever, ever want to leave somebody hanging out to dry.
How many employees do you have right now?
10, not including the two of us.
Okay. So started with Anthea, and now you're up to 12 in the organization.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty amazing. Here's something that I also know about you is that you both have been through the Entre Leadership Program of Dave Ramsey. And we all know we're at least among the three of us, we're Dave Ramsey fans. My husband and I taught that at a church group earlier this year. We've gone through the Financial Peace University, and we use that, and we have taught that to our kids. And of course, it's very similar to the Profit First methodology that I teach in the business and that you all use. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about how going to the Entre Leadership, going through that course, going through that experience, how did it impact you? And then ultimately, how did you use it to impact your team?
I would say we started out, once we did the first master series, we learned where we truly were with our business. There were some things that we were doing that were pretty darn good. There were also some areas that we needed a lot of improvement on and that we were completely uneducated on. And so to be able to evaluate ourselves and truly see where we were, pat ourselves on the back for accomplishments that we've made, but then take a good hard look at the things that we don't know and the things that we need to learn and the areas that we need to improve on, focusing on that and how do we get better. That has been just a huge impact in our business. I feel like we've gone back and really focused on the foundation so that it just becomes part of what we do. We've learned so many different skills, and just the education has just been mind-boggling for us.
And I think it takes a really open mind to say, help me look at my business and see what's working and see what is not working. Because that's a pride and an ego. Even if we know something's not working, to admit it and to lay it out and to put it under a glass for inspection, that's a really big deal. And so you and Cory were able to do that for your side of the business. How did you then implement programs or coaching with your staff members so that that information and education could flow down?
Well, I think first of all, our team could see a difference in us when we would return from the events that we went to. Just we rejuvenated the excitement level. One, like Anthea said, it was one of the best parts is when you go there and you find out that you're really not as clueless as you think you are. Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of things that you're right on the money that you're doing. But coming back and being able to talk to our team about the direction that we wanted the company to go to, and because of the things that we'd learned through his programs, we had confidence in our team and the people that we had brought in our family that could go and be executed, these plans. So, and they would see the confidence that we have in them when we come back, and that these just weren't just crazy ideas that we had, that there was some substance behind them and the reason for doing them, and that they had our full blessing and our trust in making those happen. And part of that, what the learning is how to communicate with your team. And that's been huge. That's one of our weak points is our communication. Anthea and I, we read each other's minds. We're with each other all the time, which adds another layer onto it when you're talking about your inefficiencies when you're having to look at each other and say, you're great in this area, but you really need some work here. That's can test some.
It's tough to look in the mirror,
but,
for sure.
You know, but them seeing us work together and how we come back and be able to start implementing the things that we would learn. Sometimes you get crazy because we're like drinking from a fire hose, and we come back and we get so excited that you want to do too much at first instead of just kind of
pacing it out.
Yeah, picking the things that can make immediate change. And so they know that we're learning this too, and they're patient with us. And so it's just been great to have a cohesive unit. And when we come back from the events, they know we're full of information. And then we've been able to share that with our team too, and take them to some events so that they see where we're the table that we're eating from. And then they can sit there with us and learn as we're learning. And, we don't treat them as, anything less. I mean, we see them the same as we see ourselves. We all have weight and we're all important, and everybody has a job, but we're all working towards the same goal.
When you think about it, emotion is contagious, both positive and negative emotion. And when your staff sees you two as the leaders of this company in your respective roles and together, excited and on fire, even if they're fearful that you're going to turn that fire hydrant on them, right? That fire hose on them that you've been drinking out of. They are just, you feel that energy. And you know what I think happens when you come back from those, at least it happens for me, you see possibility. It was what we talked about earlier in our conversation when you're looking for growth and looking for the next thing. If it's so perfectly defined, sometimes we kind of miss it. I think I love those types of conferences because they make me think outside of my box. And when I think outside of my box, I see possibilities that I didn't even know existed, let alone possibilities I didn't think I could reach. I didn't even know they were there for the taking. And so it's almost like my mind, my thinking, everything is expanded. And then you come home and you have this expansion for your team. I remember my dad, I lived in a small town in South Carolina, kind of what you were saying, Anthea. We were, I had a fine home. We were clean. We had all that good stuff. My parents took good care of us. They provided for us, but we weren't travelers. Back then, people didn't just, my first flight, I was 21 years old and came to Atlanta to interview for a job. We traveled, but it was to the beach and the mountains and a little car ride. Well, my dad got to travel for work. And when he would travel for work, he would go into all these different restaurants and try all these different foods. And my dad has one of the most discriminating palates of any human I've ever met. He can eat a dish, eat a meal and tell you the spices that are in it. And then he would come home and he would duplicate what he had while he was out somewhere. So we grew up eating German and Italian and Mexican when we had no experience in any restaurant like that. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think about with what you are doing. Now, when we've gotten older, we've been able, of course, the world's expanded and you can have those offerings just about anywhere. But I remember when, we barely had a McDonald's. That was highbrow, at one point. And here we are now, we're able to go eat those things and appreciate them because my dad introduced them to us. Mm-hmm. And I see your staff that same way. They're now able to come up with ideas from what you've shared and come back to you and even expand the possibility that you saw because of the way they see.
Absolutely. Also, something we do is we want them to feel like business owners as well, to have ownership of this company. There's a piece of the company that they own, and that's their job. And their job is to max out their role and to be as efficient as possible. We expect you to bring 100% every single day.
And how do they take that?
They love it. They rise to the occasion. I will say, when we first started hiring, before we learned how to hire, we hired the wrong people. And that can create such a cancer in your business. There was a time that I was coming to work and I absolutely detested it because of the people that were on my team. They were on the wrong team. They were the wrong people on the team. Those people have since left. We love them from a distance. and we learned how to hire the right person. So we bring on those people who have almost entrepreneurial spirits, but for whatever reason, they're not going to go develop their own business, or they might have had a business before, or they can appreciate entrepreneurship. They understand that we're cut from a different cloth. We're a little different than your average Joe. So to bring those kind of people, and they get real excited when we come back, because we don't use the word change around here. It's called improvements, and things are going to improve.
I love that you bring back a vision. And I think what you do as part of not only your interview process, which we're going to talk about, but in your day-to-day management of the company, is you continually reinforce the vision. You continually reinforce their role in that vision coming, to fruition. They see where they fit in the company. They don't think that it's just a job. They see how they have some impact and their purpose fits in. I know we've talked before about Simon Sinek's why, and why you're in business, and you teach them the why so that they they catch on, and they have the same why as you. That is not just entrepreneurial spirit. They have the same drive to do things. And if not, they don't last long, because you can't keep up in a fast-paced environment if you're not fast-paced.
Yeah, we'll leave you behind. We tell them all the time, this train is leaving the station. Either you're on it or you're not. And it's okay if you're not. It's okay. We'll just love you in a different place, and we'll bring on somebody who is into the train ride.
So tell me a little bit about your interview process, because I do think that it's different than some that I have experienced with other companies. So tell us a little bit about that.
It's tough to work for us. First off, we have extremely high expectations. We look for rock stars. We look for quality people. It starts out with our the job posting that we put. We make it almost a little intimidating. You got to have a little bit of some cojones to come and apply for our position. I'm trying to weed out 90% of the people. And the reason we do that is because we don't have time to mess with junk and
drama.
It's just not our thing at all.
And if you'll let me step in, I'll just correct one thing you said. I don't think it's hard to work for us. It's hard to get to work for us. We're easy to work for, but it's hard to
Once you get in the door, it's easy. But getting through the door
is tough.
You put up intentional barriers so that they literally jump through the hoops to get the job, because then the job feels like something they've worked for.
Right.
Absolutely. And yes, you're right.
And then we love on them, and we treat them like they're our kids. I mean, Riley, our daughter, worked here over the summer, and she got treated no differently than anybody else here. Actually, we're probably a little harder on her, but we treat them like they're our family, and we do care about them, and we want them to be well.
We want the best for them, for sure. So what we do is it starts with the ad. Our assistant does the first round of interviews, and we subscribe to Patrick Lencioni's philosophy of hiring the ideal team player. So that is a phenomenal book. If you're looking to hire people, The Ideal Team Player, hands down, is a excellent book to figure out who you're looking for. It's written in a very easy story format, so it's not follow this step 1, 2, 3, but it gives you a lot of the principles to follow and the types of people to look for. It's dynamite book. So anyways,
I'll put that in our show notes.
Awesome. It's dynamite. And then, so our initial, we're looking for just quality people. The integrity is what we're looking for. We can't teach honesty. We can't teach integrity. We can teach skills. Monkeys can do what we do. It's simple. We can teach that, but I can't teach you to be an honest person. Once they go through our assistant Lillian, then depending upon the role that they're interviewing for, they're going to go through that supervisor, and they're going to have an interview with them. If they get past those two, then they usually come to me. I interview them first, And once again, I'm just trying to find out their story. What's going on? What are you looking to do? Because, here's the deal. We are not hiring these people for the rest of their lives. We are going to be connected for a period of time, whether that is a few months, a few years, many years. There's only a window of time that we're going to spend together. So I want to make sure that we're on the same page for this window that we're going to share together. So looking for just where they are in life and seeing if we're a good fit for each other. Then I normally do not say a word to Cory about them, but he also knows if they get past me and now it's time to sit down and interview with Cory and Anthea, that they're probably good quality people because now they've gone through 3 interviews. We will interview them again. We like to also ask them crazy questions. If this room was full of pennies, how many pennies would it be full of? I want to know how quickly you can think on your feet. I want to throw weird, crazy stuff at you. I really want to see what kind of a real rock star you are. I'm looking at all of your social media. That's super important to me. There was one, and I'll tell you, just a little side note, I think culture is super important in your company. And we had a girl not too long ago interviewing for a marketing position. And she got through our assistant. Then her second interview, she went through that. That was great. And then we checked out her social media profile. And on Instagram, she was a young girl and was out, she had some photos of her having a good time with friends. And there was nothing I'd say truly risque, but something that was just maybe a little questionable. But my millennials came to me and said, look at this. We just want to share this with you. We don't feel like this is good for our company. I about cried when they said that to me because it's like, our millennials get it. And before I'd hired these 2 young ones, I had been very down on millennials because we had very bad experiences with them with being lazy and not caring and that sort of thing. And so my overall general impression of that generation, I wanted to stay as far away from them as possible. And I will tell you though, for as many as there are that really have an entitlement attitude, there are just as many who are just amazing in every sense of the word. But for our people to say, you know what, I don't think that they're going to be a good fit for us, that told me that they understand our culture and what we stand for and our presentation, and they cared. And once you have people who care, it makes all the difference in the world with your company. They help you go places that you would never be able to go by yourself. So after we do the 2 interviews, then we want to move forward with them. Then we will actually take them out to dinner. So they will go to 4 or 5 interviews with us. And we also take out, if they're married, we take their spouse. There's a lot of reasons why we do that. One is because we're family and everything here is family. Our dog comes to the office on a daily basis. So you got to like family if you're going to work here. And we're going to treat you as if you're one of our own. So we want your spouse to know who we are. We want to know your spouse. I also want to know that crazy is not going to come through the door. I want to make sure that that spouse isn't going to be calling the office every 5 minutes for some crazy thing. I want to make sure that that spouse is 100% on board with them working with us. And, where our positions are now, our people don't make a whole lot of money. And can they afford to come work for us? That's really important because I'm not interested in turning over somebody because you can't afford to pay your bills because you took a job that doesn't take care of what you need to take care of, your obligations. So making sure that we're all on that same page is vital for us.
I just saw I guess it was on Facebook. It was something, Simon Sinek, I adore him. I'm going to interview him one day. I'm putting that out there. One day I'm going to interview him.
Oh, good, because mine's Dave Ramsey. On my dream board, I've got that he's going to do a what do you call it? A sponsorship,
a live spot,
live spot for us.
Okay.
That's my dream.
All right. I'll be praying about that for you. I'm going after Simon. Okay.
You take Simon, I'll take Dave.
Okay. Sounds good. But he had something on, just one of those small video snippets, and he was talking about profitability. And, my whole podcast is Profit is a Choice, and I coach profitability, but I always coach it, as you said, with integrity, conscientious. It doesn't mean at the expense of hurting other people or doing anything in a bad way. And what Simon said the other day was that in the 80s and 90s, which was when I came through corporate, that, we were in a position that was the .com in the late 90s, all that was going on, but that people balanced their books. And I remember this by layoffs, mass layoffs. I can remember by the time I got let go from my company, I had been through somewhere between 13 and 16 layoffs and survived. Wow. We had them every 6 to 8 months so they could balance the books. And then they'd turn around and give you a bonus or take you to a party because they'd gotten rid of salaries. But his comment was, if you will spend your time focusing on your employees, then your employees will take their time to focus on your clients. And when your clients are cared for, they'll take care of your company. And so if you really want to take care of your company, you take care of your employees, because the trickle down of them being empowered to do what they do, they will love on that client. And then that client's going to pay you. So shareholder equity, all of that's going to take care of itself if you take care of the employee first. And that's what I see you doing.
Yeah. We want to treat our employees just like we treat our clients. We want to wow our employees. We want them to come to work every day fired up, where they are excited about being here and what they bring to the table. And they're excited about the projects. They're excited about executing. And they want to do a good job for us because they want us to be pleased with them.
With all of that going on, describe where your business is today, because you've grown a lot. You've changed a lot. You now have 10 employees plus yourself versus, a dream on a couch, the sofa dream. Describe what your business looks like today. Who do you serve? What do you do?
Well, we've grown immensely from starting in our garage years ago. We're in a 14,000 square foot warehouse now. We have enough furniture that we could stage about 80 houses at a time. Generally, we're rolling about 40 to 50 a month is what we have out. And, one thing that I learned during the recession that we went through is being prepared, and how do I want to look when I go through a situation or when we come through a situation. I experienced that with the builders that I was working with. None of them looked and saw how they wanted to be when the recession was over, and a lot of them are now doing other things besides building. So as we built our business, our customer base is great. We do a lot of realtors. We have realtors that, have been with us from the beginning, and they are great because they don't question anything anymore. They just call and say, house is going to be ready in 2 weeks. Put me on the schedule. And so, we've really built our relationship and our trust between our clients. We work with a lot of builders. Of course, we specialize in vacant property, so we're doing a lot of new construction, and we've really hit the luxury market here in Nashville to where we're staging the very high-end properties. And, we never know whose house we're going in. We've staged for a lot of people out there that are pretty popular here in Nashville.
Which could be almost the equivalent in some cases of 2 houses, if not more, based on the living spaces and the size of what you are now. Before it could have been a couple of, like a 2-bedroom condo. And now we're talking about 8 or 9 bedroom house with 3 living spaces. It's one house is the equivalent.
Absolutely. And Nashville has been the it city, or so they say. And the real estate market here has been on fire for several years now. It's just really crazy. And people think that would be so good for our business, but it has in one respect, but the other, the houses are being sold before they finish them. So there's no need to stage them. So, but now it's kind of turned, and there's inventory issues and things and whatnot, but business is changing. But with that hot real estate market came a lot of home stagers. Everybody wanted to be a home stager. They've been watching HGTV, and as staging became more of a process throughout the selling experience, everybody wanted to do that. So we were looking at that going, wow, how do we combat this? Because they're starting new. They're I mean, they're undercutting us on price. I mean, they can do that. What do? We realized, hey, that we've got a lot of toys here, and we know how hard it is to get a business to where we are. And so we just decided at that point we were going to change our business model, and we're still going to do the home staging, and we're still going to do everything that we've ever done there and still be that company. But with the amount of furniture that we have now, we decided that we're going to help these other stagers develop their business. Instead of treating them as competition, we're going to bring them in, educate them, allow them access to our furniture. So now we've become a supply house for other staging companies here in the Nashville area where they can come rent the furniture from us and stage their properties.
The beautiful part about this approach, I mean, there are so many beautiful things, but you know, you also know that if they're undercutting you, you know how hard that business is to start. You know that it seems simple on the outside looking in, just like interior design, same kind of idea. People on the outside looking in think it's all about the pretty, and it's so easy. The pretty's 20%, the work is 80%. And so you know that if these stagers are undercutting you, it's not because they're making a mint, it's because they don't understand the value and worth of what they're doing. And so instead of being frustrated or lowering your prices, which you're not doing, you're going in and supporting them not only with educational opportunities, but also with processes and furniture and the things that maybe they've not even built up. So now they have the opportunity to take the big job that comes to them, like the 5 model home that came to you. They now have a support system behind them where they can reach a little bit higher, and they can see possibility that they couldn't see as a one-man or a one-woman show. So you have actually taken, again, this leadership and this growth and this idea that you can be if you work and go, not only turned it internally to your team, but you're turning it outward to the people that others might consider competition. Instead, you're looking at them as, let's keep the industry going. How can I help?
Right.
you?
And there's so much business out there. I mean, we couldn't handle all of it, nor would we want all of it, but we can help everybody. The more people we help, the more we're going to get out of life. And we understand that, and we've always been willing to help. And of course, you know, there's certain things that are the way that we do it, and we're going to keep it the way that we do it. And we don't share all of the information, but you know, we want to help everybody be successful. We want them to be able to make money on the furniture that we're renting them, and really lift the whole industry in this area as a whole, so that it's, you know, it's top notch, whoever you're going to get to come to your house.
Was that a difficult decision to come to, or did it just kind of make sense did you struggle with it? Did you wrestle with it? Or was it one that when the idea came up, you're like, oh, perfect, let's go?
I think it was a perfect idea. Now, where we struggled with it is like when we would get the new furniture, when, you know, our buying process changed also throughout this whole run that we've been on. So we started buying, you know, wholesale from market. And of course, you know, you want to be the first one to debut that brand new chair that came in. You want it to be your photo. And so it was a lot of that holding it back until we got to the point where, like, this is ridiculous. Why are we waiting? Let's just get it out there. And it's been a growing process for Anthea and myself, and, you know, and letting go not only of just the furniture, but of everything else that goes on, you know, in our place. That learning to let go means that we can go a lot faster. We don't have to control everything. And so we stopped worrying about what everybody else was doing and what houses they were staging and what new staging companies were in town. Because one thing we knew is that a lot of them didn't make it. So we want to help them make it. And that'll help us as well.
Helps the industry as a whole. We get better. The real estate agents take us more seriously as an industry when we all have a certain level that we hit. And not everybody wants, you know, to be doing the 40 and 50 houses a month. Some people want to do 2 or 3. And I think that is absolutely A-okay, because it works for them. And if we can help them do that 2 or 3, then the mom who wants to have a part-time staging business and be home for the kids when they get off the bus at 3 o'clock, she can do that. And that's awesome for us, because it allows her to tap into her entrepreneurial spirit. She gets to bring home money for her family, and everybody wins.
And I think a lot of what they learn too, or the other stagers learn, is that, it is hard to get the jobs. It's hard to get the furniture, and it's hard to get it there, delivered, and all of that. But in the scope of things, that's the easy part of the industry. The hard part is finding the storage and the insurance and all of that goes along that we didn't even think about the night that we had this idea. I mean, we didn't say, hey, let's have this idea so we can figure out workers' comp insurance. That wasn't ever part of the conversation. But if we can help the other businesses, they can still be successful and not have to worry about all the other things, the headaches that go along the business side of it.
They don't have to become experts in industrial racking. I got to tell you, I never thought in my wildest dreams I get fired up about warehouses. But man, I sure do. And having those warehouse toys, those Ballymores where they can lift stuff up and down. Oh my gosh, I thought I died and gone to heaven once that has happened. But I got educated in it because we had to figure it out.
It's so funny. I've heard a couple different times as entrepreneurs, if we knew everything that it was going to take to really attain the dream that we had, we would stop. So or we would never begin. So it's probably a good thing you didn't have any idea of industrial racking when you were sitting on your sofa 11 years ago, because you might have been like, what? Don't even care about that? Not going in that direction. But now it provides excitement for you. It energizes.
Well, the funny thing is when we started our business, even renting the furniture was never part of what we wanted to do. We wanted to go in and basically rearrange people's houses and have our little accessories and do things like that. And after we did that a few times, we're like, well, this is not as much fun as we thought it was.
Not for us.
Yeah, because she quoted me as saying, I am not getting in the furniture rental business. And now we love the furniture rental business. Let's just say that.
That's okay. We've said a few nevers in our home. One of them was, it's so funny. One of them was having a child's not going to change our life. Yeah, that was.
Oh, that's a big one.
Quite ill-informed.
It changes, and what we had been able to accomplish 10 years ago, we would have never thought that was obtainable. It would have never even entered our mind. The business the size that it is today never entered our mind when we started this company. But where we are today is not only so exciting, it's like I keep thinking about where are we going to be in 5 years and our 5-year plan and what we want to do. And that to me is more exciting than anything. And so once we get to that point, I cannot wait to see what's the next step. Where's the vision going to take us? Because it's constantly evolving. It's never an end all be all like, oh, we've hit that and that's what it is. It's once you get there, you realize that there's still so much more room for growth in different areas. And it's not necessarily in the size of your company, but different things, different opportunities that come your way that really end up being a really good fit for you. We do television shows. I never thought in my wildest dreams that I'd want to work with a production company. It's fun for us. We enjoy it. So that's another facet of our business that we can continue to develop and grow. And it's been a fun ride.
I know that even at the beginning, you had to think about the money coming in and out of the company because you had to cover 2 salaries. Has that been something that you've always kept an eye on, is all the money, all the numbers, all the profits? Or is it one of those things that you kept your eye on it, but it came secondary to the dream? How does that fit in for you?
Of course, as we've grown, it's changed. But when we were first starting, we just, as long as we could have our bills paid, it didn't get beyond that as far as what we were thinking. We knew that we could have we just wanted to work for ourselves. We were tired of working for somebody else. As long as we could replace that income with what we were doing, that was good enough for us at the time. But that was what our thinking was and our vision was at the time. Going back to what we had talked about earlier about going to the conferences that we go to and all the education, that's been the most critical part in us getting where we are, because it's totally changed our thinking. But it goes back also to what we were talking about, how when we first started and nobody took us seriously and they didn't see us for who we thought we were. As our business has grown, one thing that Anthea and I have had to do is look and see how people see us now, because we're still just the same old people to us. And it's growing into that authority figure, or however you want to put it, knowing that there's value in what you bring to a business or to a company. And that's been a huge part in us growing, is the confidence that we have with each other, as far as being business owner. I mean, we'd never owned another business, and I mean, we didn't know what we were doing. We just got up and went to work. We went to work and we went to work, and that's all we did. And, now we're in a different position where we're having to oversee the whole business. And there's a lot of confidence and growing that had to go with each of us individually to be able to step into those roles.
And now that we're not doing the day-to-day installs like we used to, we have fun building the business and building the pipeline. And that's what fires us up, is how do we take the business to another level? How do we help our team members to grow in the directions they need to be growing in? That excites me. I like the challenge of building a business. I've never done it before.
But if you're talking financially, though, how we built it the whole time is we would say, okay, we know that we need to make this amount each month, and that's going to at least keep us where we are. We're not going to have to sleep outside. And then once we had that much, our bases were covered, everything else we put back in the company. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, our bills are paid, good, let's buy a sofa. And was hard for our daughter because she heard no so much growing up. Oh, we can't afford that. But then we'd go and buy a new sofa that she never even got to sit on. And she just never understood that part of, so we always just looked at how much we needed, and then we would always reinvest back in the company. And now that we're blessed enough to where we don't have to,
scrape our pennies.
Yes. Hold our breath at the end of the month. Things change, and you're able to put money towards the things where you want to go instead of what you have to.
But keeping your eye on those numbers, I know that you've done that. And I know even when you didn't understand, you got help to make sure you could understand. Accountants, bookkeepers, coaches, bankers, whatever, because you know that your growth isn't just dependent on an idea, but also on the financial backing that your company provides to allow you to do it. Like, you can't hire an employee if you don't have the money to pay the employee. You can't get a space or even buy the industrial racking if you don't have the money to buy the industrial racking. And I love also how you have stated you did have enough of an eye on it that you always wanted to buy your items in cash, which of course, I love, because now you're not paying off for 6 months or a year on a sofa that was damaged on the very first install. That's painful. Right. And so I know that you're doing that. Even in my quiet time this morning, I was having working through the concept of identity. And I think even in our business, the concept of identity, from what you've shared, Cory, is it changes, right? You were identified, Anthea, as a realtor. Then you were identified as a stager. Now you're identified as a business owner and as an educator and as, a TV support system or company or whatever. Now you are identified as a coach for your team. And we have to get comfortable with the identity that we put on, because we can still see ourselves. I'm sure there are some of you that will understand this and others that won't. I still sometimes see myself as an 18-year-old kid coming right out of high school, and I'm in my 50s. That's just not.
We were having that conversation last night. We still feel like we're in our early 20s.
I've got a kid older than that. And I'm sitting here going, oh, I so get it. And he's like, Mom, you're weird. Yeah. And I'm like, my body's aged, but sometimes, and I've gotten mature, I hope, in some cases. But I swear my brain sometimes, I feel like a young girl, or I can feel like a teenager, or like that 30-something mom. I easily can go back and feel like I'm still her. And as we age and as we grow in all types of ways, making peace with the new identity and our new role and the new responsibility that comes with that identity. I do find it challenging, but I find it very exciting. But it takes a little bit of self-introspection to do that. And I love that you two not only self-introspect, but you tell each other, like, Anthea, this is who you are now. Cory, this is who you are now.
Yeah. And we're also very focused on laying out the vision for each other. Cory has laid out a vision. He says, I see you, doing this in the next few years. I see you, and it's like, oh man, he just pours into me. And I do the same, and we really edify each other because we are on a team. And there's no way in this world, we always tease that, I'm the face of the company, but he's really the brains behind it all. He's that driving power, that he's the solid rock. I'll come home and it's just been a really, really rough day. And he's just like, let it go, and he just brings in a whole new perspective. And it's like, okay, thank you. I needed that. And it's back to, this is where we are. This is just what's happened. And let's focus on how do we fix it. And then let's build each other up, because that issue does not identify us as a business, and it does not identify us as business owners. It's just something that we're going through.
That support is important. And that's part of I would say, one of the aspects of coaching that I love so much is casting a vision for the people that I work with, going, here's what I see. I even had a business owner call me today, and I said, you know what, before we start, I want to tell you what I'm picking up from your website. Here's what I see. Is that what your business is and what you do? And she's like, oh my gosh, you got it. I'm like, good, then your marketing's working, because what I see from not talking to you, not knowing, is the same kind of thing. And I remember that one time I had a coaching client who said to me, Michelle, here's what I see for you. And she wrote it in this beautiful email. And I was kind of taken aback, because I'm not used to my clients telling me that. My coach, sure, my coach tells me that. My husband tells me that, right? And I tell my coachees, but it's not something that I was expecting to get back that way. Mm-hmm. And it was astounding. And it made me stop and think, oh my goodness, if other people see me that way, why don't I see me that way? Because if I saw me that way, what could I accomplish next? And so sometimes that's the beautiful part, I think, of what you're doing with your employees, your team, as you call them. Here's what I see for you. Do you see that vision? Do you see that? And if they buy into that, my goodness, they're going to go manifest. They're going to go make that happen because they believe it. And I think I see it happening in my life, telling my kids, here's what I see for you. Here's what your abilities are. Here's what you have in your toolbox, and kind of shifting that identity a little bit and seeing it through other people's eyes, as long as we got good supportive people who are casting the vision for us.
Absolutely. It's almost like that parent blessing the child, when that parent edifies that child and says, this is what I see for you. This is the goodness. This is what's coming in your life. You start to live it out. It's amazing when you speak it over people. And we really are, I will say, I think our natural gift is to do that with each other. And it's been a huge help for us, because I never saw myself the way my husband sees me. And when somebody that I admire and I respect and I listen to, somebody who says to me, this is the greatness that I see in you, I gotta believe it.
Because you trust him.
100%. Yes. I think he's crazy sometimes, because I may not see the vision right away, but it's like, okay, really? You see that? And sometimes it takes a while. Like, it's got to sit in my brain, and it just kind of festers in there. And it's like, okay, wait a second. I just kind of mull over that. Like, really? You see me like that? Okay, then I can do that. I can grow into that. I can become that. And yes, you're right. I'm gonna own
My
that.
husband said something to me probably about a week or so ago. He told me, he said, here, I just want to tell you how I've been praying for you lately. And then he shared it with me. And I wasn't stunned that he was telling me that he prayed over me, because I know that he does that. I was stunned at what he said to me. And I was like, wow. I mean, it was like this big blessing that he was praying over my life. And I was like, oh my goodness, wow. And I didn't even know what to say to him at the time. And I did exactly what you did. I mulled and thought about it. And I've always said that the distance from your head to your heart is a really long trip sometimes. Right? You know it in your head, but to get it from your head to your heart, good night, that's a long trip. And I was soaking it in. And then we went out to dinner, and I said, can I talk to you about what you said you were praying over me a week ago? And I think I kind of took him aback a little bit. And he's like, yeah. And I just said, I've been sitting with that, and I want you to know how much it impacted me. And then it gave, and at the same time, I was able to share, you know, how I'd been praying of him, what my prayer for him was and for his life and for the blessing for him. But it is such a beautiful thing when you can share with someone, a spouse, a parent, a child, an employee, a team member, and speak blessing over them. You know, we've always heard you can either speak words of life or words of death. Everything we say is either building somebody up or tearing somebody down. There's not a lot of neutral very often. Right. And I think the idea that we can run a business where we build up others, where we build up the community, where we build up an industry, it always turns and pays back to us every single time, tenfold more than tearing down an employee, a team member, an industry, a colleague, a competitor. That will get you and bite you every time. That is not profitable speech.
Absolutely. And you don't understand sometimes the power of your words. A little compliment somebody can hold for the rest of their life. I remember a dance teacher that I had when I was really young, and I didn't think she ever liked me. She was just really hard on me. And one Christmas, she wrote me a little Christmas card, and she said, in it, I will never forget, keep dancing beautifully. I still hold on to that because she has no idea the power that made me feel when I realized, okay, she doesn't hate me, so this is a good thing. But the fact that she would say something positive to me about it, which she would never in class, she would never ever say anything positive. But if you're going to write that down on a card, I think that's kind of how you feel. And wow, a little compliment can completely change someone's life. And the power of your words are so strong.
I totally agree. Let me ask you this as we wrap up. What's one of the next big goals you have in your business?
Multiplication. So right now, our focus is automate as much that we possibly can within our business, building our pipeline so that we can build something for our daughter, whether she ever chooses to sell the business, whether she ever chooses to get involved in the business and own it one day. We want to pass something down to her that is a huge blessing. And to know that mom and dad started this from an idea, that we worked our tails off to make it happen. And I think that that's one of the greatest gifts that we can give our daughter, is for her to see how hard we've worked, and ultimately in the end, the reward that you get from that.
Beautiful. You also are going to be doing some education in your area. Tell us a little bit about that, Anthea.
I'm going to be starting, the Real Estate Staging Association has a continuing education class for real estate agents. And I have gotten approval on all of that. So it's now, our paperwork is of course tied up with the state for final approval. But that's really exciting to be able to offer a class to real estate agents. They always love those continuing education, but it's educate, educate, educate. So it doesn't matter to me if you end up using us as your staging partner, but there's going to be a good fit for you somewhere here in town. And that's only going to help the industry grow. And once again, it opens up opportunities. Everybody wins, from the buyers to the sellers, to the real estate agents, the home stagers, even the furniture manufacturers. Everyone is winning. And that's exciting to me. And to see that growth, it's fun.
You always have something going on. Every time I talk to you too, there's something fun and exciting. I look forward to chatting with you.
We don't like to be bored around here.
No, we don't do bored.
I would say I don't either. That's probably why I enjoy hanging out with you all. So is there anything else that you would like to share? Where can people find you? Tell us your Facebook, your Instagram, website. Where can they get a hold of you? I'll have it in show notes too.
Okay, well, we have a brand new website. We've invested into finally getting our look to match our work. We have a brand new website that we are proud of, and that is fpstaging.com. And I'll let you talk about the Instagram.
Yes, our Facebook is Fresh Perspectives, and our Instagram handle is fp.home.design.
Well, I will have all of that in the show notes. And I just want to thank you both so much for sharing your journey, the ups, the downs, the struggles, and the success. And you know what? Mostly for the idea of the possibility of what could be. So thank you both for being with us today.
Well, and we want to thank you too, because you are a very integral part to what's happening to us and what you pour into us and your passion for what you do. You're such an inspiration to us, and we're glad that we have connected and that we're on this journey with you.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, thank you all for listening and joining us in the podcast. Please go out to iTunes and leave us a review so we can continue to do more. Thanks so much, everybody.